Muslim refers to the religion, law, or civilization of Islam. Islam is the religious faith of Muslims based on the words and religious systems founded by the Prophet Muhammad and taught by the Quran, the basic principle of which absolute submission to a unique and personal God, Allah. These two definitions are found in the dictionary, and as a collection of words they are harmless and non-threatening. However, when society hears the word Muslim, they hold associations and form attitudes that are negative. In Australia, Muslims are considered a minority group as they make up 2.6% of the population as of 2016, as opposed to minority groups such as Catholics at 22.6% and those that identify with no religion at 30.1%. The misunderstanding, grouping, and lack of knowledge about those that identify with being Muslim increases segregation and negative language, thus society forming negative attitudes. Terrorists, danger to Australia, they do not want to be a part of the Australian culture, violent, uneducated. These are all words that are generally associated when people hear the word Muslim. The attitudes of others, not just in Australia but also across many other Western cultures, are often negative, whereby people automatically assume the worst before they even attempt to get to know the person. So, how do people form these negative attitudes towards people who identify with being Muslim? People are not automatically born with pre-formed ideas and attitudes. They must be formed over time from a range of influences. These include observational learning, whereby the positive or negative attitude is formed through the constant exposure, which will increase the feeling about the group. This can be influenced by the media, family, friends, or other members in society. The tri-component ABC model is made up of three sections: affective component, behavioral component, and cognitive component. The affective component refers to the emotion that drives the attitudes towards a group. For example, those that have no direct experience with Muslims have a greater chance of holding a negative emotional response to Muslims due to the influence of another factor. For example, what they have viewed in the media. The behavioral component refers to the individual's attitude that is determined by their behavior and actions. For example, it can be determined that if a person sees a Muslim woman wearing a hijab walking towards them and they cross the street to avoid them, then they hold a negative attitude towards Muslims. The cognitive component is the personal belief that are held towards a group. For example, if a person thinks that there is no place in Australia for those that wish to practice their Muslim religion and therefore should not be a citizen of Australia, hold a negative belief. For the examples of the ABC tri-component model, it can be determined that the person holds a negative attitude towards people of the Muslim faith. What is Sharia law? Sharia law is a term that refers to the moral, legal, and religious codes that guide a Muslim's life. There are already some examples in the Australian law that align with the Sharia law. For example, the Marriage Act of 1961 accommodates Islamic marriages through allowing marriages to be performed by a Muslim celebrant. However, there are still many debates, such as the 2017 debate between Jackie Lambie and Yasmin Abdel Magid on Q&A, whereby Lambie argues that the fact is we have one law in this country, and that is the Australia law. It is not the Sharia law, not in this country. However, this is a closed-minded attitude and belief and is a hindrance in increasing the acceptance of diversity and holds the power to influence others. Before forming an attitude, it is an important step to gain a deeper perspective of the situation by putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Dalia Mogadi discusses growing up in America as a Muslim and what she experienced after the 9/11 Twin Tower attack. She talks about the hardship she encountered as a result of someone else's actions and how she as a Muslim was from then on grouped due to others reflecting their beliefs of the terrorists onto the generalization of all Muslims. Bo Donnelly published an article in the Sydney Morning Herald in 2016 on what it is like to live in Australia as a Muslim, which was comprised of 28 different personal experiences. Many of the short stories included how others treated them and how actions and language that is directed at them makes them feel. One Muslim living in Sydney states that they had a lot of internal anger due to how they, as a religious group, are represented and discussed in the media, and how they are met with the internal struggle of wanting to stand up and defend themselves and their religion and not wanting to have to say or do anything because they haven't done anything wrong. It is often considered that if you're a woman, why would you choose to practice the Muslim faith when it is so degrading, restrictive, and oppressive? These uninformed stereotypes feed into the negative attitudes and beliefs that society holds because through the media that is how they are portrayed. However, countries that have a population that embodies Muslims have female rights, there are female humanitarians, female rulers throughout history, women in parliament, women who hold leadership roles in organizations, teachers, authors, and athletes. Just because they might be a woman who is also a Muslim, they are not oppressed by their own faith but by the views of society.